This is the Canadian World Junior team, and for the second year in a row, history has repeated itself as they've been eliminated by Czechia in the quarterfinal with a last-minute goal. The hockey program that has been a juggernaut for years has now lost in back-to-back World Juniors in the quarterfinals for the first time in 30 years. So what the hell happened here? And why did this all seem inevitable since day one? Well, let's take a deeper look. Right from the start when these rosters were announced, Canada raised a lot of eyebrows with their selections. A lot of big-time players were left off the roster, including the OHL's leading scorer and Michael Misa. When the tournament started, the team looked undisciplined, disjointed, and that left Canadians wondering why practices were being cancelled. Team Canada, despite all the noise and the players wanting to prove the country wrong for doubting them, could erase all of this with one win over Czechia to advance to the semifinals. But this game, from start to finish, encapsulated Canada's entire tournament. It starts in the worst possible way. Less than a minute in, Czechia scores the very first 5-on-5 goal against Canada in this tournament. Knowing Canada wants to stretch the ice early, Czechia says nah and gets their D aggressive on the red line to stuff the play. The Canadian D in Molendijk, who started the play, gets caught after Czechia wins a 50-50 puck, and Canada mishandles their assignments on the way to the net. As this puck is dished to the wing, a switch is supposed to happen between Nadeau and Gibson. With Nadeau's man beating him to the net, the switch is supposed to have Gibson taking the middle lane driver, while Nadeau pressures the puck carrier. But instead, there's a miscommunication and both guys step up on the puck carrier, leaving Sikora wide open in front. One zip checks and the pressure is on already. Then we see a reoccurring theme with Canada in this tournament, and that is a lack of discipline. 11 minutes in the first, Cole Boyden comes down Main Street and lays a booming hit. But Canada does the one thing they talked about avoiding for 2 days straight, and that's taking a penalty. This one ended up being a major and a game misconduct for kneeing. Now, anytime there's a game misconduct, there's going to be a ton of chatter about whether it was deserved. Now, is that a penalty? I can see that, but Boyden does stay center while he throws this hit. He clips him, but he doesn't go out of his way to stick out a leg. Either way, it doesn't matter. Canada's in the box for 5 minutes. If you want to cry about it, then kill it off. Now let's quickly dive into why Canada couldn't stop a goddamn power play. Dave Cameron had them playing a wedge +1 on the PK. It's where 2D and a forward form a triangle down low to prevent the slot chances, while the top forward acts as a sweeper to dictate the route of the power play by sweeping across the top of the defensive zone to keep that power play on one side of the ice. However, if that sweeping forward pressures on 50-50 pucks like Brandon Yager does here, you can force a weak shot into that triangle area and create a potential break. And would you look at that, it's just as Dave Cameron drew it up at the practice that he never had with the team, and the forced attempt creates a stop, and Yager is off to the races. He doesn't score, but it eventually leads to the game-tying goal. Everyone's ecstatic in Ottawa for about 2 minutes, and then their PK fails them again. Sam Dickinson bowls this one into the net, the Brian McCabe special. Is it a bad bounce? Absolutely, but the bounce only happens because Canada's structure is all over the place. Canada loses a battle down low, and now they're in a bad spot. That forward takes away that middle lane, which is good, but the puck moves to the point, and that means that this killer who helped down low has to hustle to get back to the top of the triangle. Whether he's gassed or too slow to the read, Czechia gets an all-time look from the bumper, and even though he scores a field goal on the attempt, the bounce created from Canada's mistake goes Czechia's way. Then it goes from bad to worse with Canada giving up a goal with 2 seconds left in the period. They smell one last rush chance to end the period as 5 Czechia players gravitate to one side of the ice. So Canada goes east-west, but the puck is bobbled. But again, it's Czechia's support and structure that negate this play. 2 Canada players over here start diving in. The close support option gets stuck in no man's land because of the turnover on the entry. And just like that, the Czechs put all the pressure in the world on Canada with a 3-1 lead at the end of the period. Now going into the second period, albeit late, Canada gets a power play. And all throughout this tournament, their power play wasn't great, ranking 6 out of the 10 countries and going 4 for 19. Structurally, they ran a constant mix between a 2-3 setup and a 1-3-1. With 1 or 2 players being in motion, Canada would try to create different looks by morphing between these 2 setups. We saw it against Germany, Latvia, and the States, and we see it again versus the Czechs. Canada has 2 forwards down low with one staying net front and the other ready to pop into the bumper or get a backdoor tap-in. But Canada bombs this one for the point, and Porter Martone tips it in to make it a 1-goal game. Now, among the other things that plagued Canada was their lack of scoring. They ranked dead last in scoring efficiency in this tournament, and when even strength, they ride and died with the 2-3 system. They got quote-unquote goalied against Latvia, but looking at their heat map in that game, most of the shots came from the perimeter. And most of those perimeter shots from the point, as Canada often settled for throwing it on net from distance and hoping one would find its way. And although it did work at times during this tournament, it becomes predictable or easy to defend in two situations. Either A, you don't have a game-breaking forward as the high F3 to exploit the space, or B, you have limited movement from your defenders. Canada had both of these issues, and they only created high-quality looks from their D when they're able to shrink the zone and find seam passes into the slot. And to tie the game, that is exactly what they did. Off a scramble play from low to high, the D press in and shrink the zone. The initial shot is blocked, but that allows the F3 to get it right in the slot with two forwards at the net. Czechia hits the panic button, they leave both guys alone in front, and elation hits Ottawa. The building is rocking, Canada is buzzing, it's going straight to their legs, and then we get some more controversy. Gibson goes to finish his hit, the Czechia player hits him with another sidestep, and it's Canada's worst nightmare all over again. They go to the box, and as a defender in this situation, it's kind of like, what do you do? You're not going to just let him step by you. And his left leg stays pretty straight, but he whiffs on the upper body. Canadians certainly don't like that call in a tied 3-3 game with just over 2 minutes left. Either way, the end result is Canada needs to rely on its PK one more time to force OT. Now remember what I said about Canada's PK? Well, it can be exposed in two ways. First, beat that top forward either with a pass or with your feet and take advantage of the space as the triangle tries to sort itself out. Latvia torched Canada with two cross-seam plays like this by beating that initial forward and then attacking the seam. Now second, if that top forward is successful at keeping you to one side, keep driving down low to get the PK to collapse and then take the space and use it to your advantage. So with Czechia on this power play, they're looking for one of those two looks. And as this puck goes low to high, this forward doesn't effectively isolate the power play to one side, and he makes this a layup of a pass to the point. The second forward flares out and makes an incredibly ballsy block. The bounce goes right to Juracek, a seam is exposed, and Czechia stuns Canada.
Juracek feeds it back across, Yeko scores!
For the second year in a row, Canada gives up a late goal to Czechia to lose in the quarterfinal. Now, Hockey Canada has to take a deep look in the mirror. Leaving high-end and potentially game-breaking players off the roster like Tija Ginla, Zane Perrick, and Michael Misa, it came back to haunt them big time in this tournament. And really, the harsh truth for Canada is that the rest of the world is catching up. No longer is hockey dominated purely by the Canadians. We've seen it firsthand in this World Juniors, and with the NHL's best-on-best set to face off in February, we may very well see it again. Until then, Canada has to go back to the drawing board while the rest of the hockey world celebrates.